Good evening, friends. Well, it's Friday once again, and a very special Friday because today is Christmas. So, I have a Christmas story for you that I wrote back in 2010. Now it's time to grab a snack, dim the lights, and let me take you into the night with a story I call Considering the Rapture. Don't you think it's about time? Peter asked as he studied the chessboard. For what? Jesus asked, moving his pawn to block. Peter seemed astonished his Lord hadn't read his thoughts. Why, the rapture, of course. Maybe. Jesus sat back and pulled his hair back into a ponytail, fixing it there. But then again, I intentionally inspired the scriptures vague to ensure I would be able to make it happen at precisely the right moment for best effect. But it's been over 2,000 years, Peter said, frustrated. In the meantime, Lucifer is down there creating all sorts of havoc and making people wonder if you really care about them. Jesus reached over to tip the lid back from a fine silver box which sat on the table near him. As the top folded back, a wisp of mist drifted out from the eternal void within, and prayers could be heard. You hear that? He asked Peter. Those are the prayers of the faithful, and if you listen closely, you can hear them not only praying for salvation, but also accepting whatever happens as the Father's will. Suddenly a golden light beamed down upon Jesus from above, and God's voice boomed. Jesus, are you letting prayers go unanswered again? Forgive me, Father, Jesus said. I was merely showing Peter that faith remains with the people on earth. Peter, do you doubt? God asked. Nobody likes a doubting Thomas. No offense, Didymus. None taken, Father, Didymus said and went back to his reading. No, Father, Peter said immediately. That's good, Peter, God said. Have you done your chores for the day? Peter wondered why the Father always asked if he did his chores when he knew whether or not he had, and in fact knew already whether he would do them tomorrow. Yes, Father, I cleared the queue just before I came in to talk with Jesus. Did you remember to lock the gates? God asked. Yes, Father, Peter said obediently. Very well, God smiled upon his children. You boys be good unto one another. The light faded and Jesus looked at Peter. Your move. Peter reached out and moved his knight to guard his queen. So what do you think? About what? Jesus asked. The rapture, of course, Peter said, frustrated. Just a minute, Jesus said and turned to look across the room. Judas, come here a minute, will you? Yes, sir, Judas said as he approached. Judas, I wish you would quit calling me sir, Jesus said, exasperated. I do works for a living, you know. I know, I just really feel bad for having betrayed you. How many times are we going to have to go over this? Jesus asked. You did what the Father commanded because it was all part of his plan. Don't you think if you had gone against the Father's will, you'd be in hell now? Well, yeah, Judas rolled his eyes. All right then, enough. Jesus pulled him close and hugged him, kissing him on the forehead. If only all men were so repentant. Judas took a seat near the table and studied the board. Once again, Peter was setting up to capture the Lord's queen with a distraction. Peter was just saying that we should begin the rapture. What do you think? Jesus asked. Wow, that's going to mean a lot of work for my people in the personnel department, Judas sighed. Have you seen the population on Earth? Not only that, all the missionaries have been busy and created a lot of converts. It would mean lines for eons, and my people will never get a break. Well, you know, it's their own fault, John said smugly as he put down his crossword scroll. The Father really does dislike suicide. If they had suffered out their lives and died when he prescribed, they could be off enjoying themselves with the others. And talking back, Jesus said knowingly. Don't forget how he feels about blasphemy. That's right, Peter said. Just look what happened to Lucifer and his buddies. Come on, John, Judas looked sad. God didn't make me a civil servant, and I betrayed his son. Besides, not all of us were off cavorting with mean-spirited princesses in Rome getting their heads chopped off. No, some of us were walking around in the hot sun of Jerusalem helping Jesus to spread the word. But he did put you in charge of them nonetheless, Peter smirked. Just shows you how he feels about it. Oh, come off it, you guys. Jesus laid back and sipped at his wine. So what about the rapture? Peter asked. Oh, I don't know, Jesus said. I kind of wish I'd never made that proclamation. You know, I did not really like the idea of going back down there with all the pollution and noise. And the thought of going on tour, well, and traffic, Judas said. Do not forget about traffic. It's not like you're going to be there forever, Peter said. You call your people home and then get to take a breather while we wait for the apocalypse. And it's not like you have to get sacrificed on a cross this time, Judas said. Good thing, too. Jesus looked down at his hands and sighed. You guys have no idea how much it hurts when they drive those nails and pierce your ribs. I'm sorry, Jesus, Judas said and bowed his head. Speaking of which, Peter said curiously, I wonder how Cassius is doing these days. Say, that's right, Paul said as he joined the group. I wonder how poor Cassius is doing. Cassius? Jesus considered a moment, looking at the scar on his ribs. Oh, yes, the legionnaire I commended to wait for my return. Last I heard, he had tried throwing himself off a cliff in an attempt to end his life, John said. Lay suffering for 10 days before he was found by some herders and cared for. Ouch, that had to hurt, Judas laughed. Poor man, Paul said. He knew not what he had done. It is going to take a bit of planning, though, Peter said. How so? Asked Judas. Well, we need to evaluate and figure out exactly which part of the world is going to lose the most people during the rapture, Peter said. That way we can time it to avoid loss of life unnecessarily from suddenly uncontrolled vehicles and such. Why? John asked. Those that don't make the rapture will have to suffer the tribulations. Might be better if they died instead. That makes absolutely no sense, Paul interjected. Why do you say that? John asked. It's really quite simple, John, Judas spoke up. If they don't make the rapture, then they weren't saved, or they would have risen. If they die during the rapture, before they have a chance to redeem themselves during the tribulations, then they go directly to hell. Do not pass go, do not collect robe and halos. Maybe we should have put a double indemnity clause in Revelations, John said, looking at Jesus. Jesus smiled and slipped his queen past Peter's guards. Checkmate, he said, getting up and smoothing his robes. Where are you going? Peter asked, shaking his head. Do I not get a chance to redeem myself? A little while, and ye shall not see me. And again, a little while, and ye shall see me, because I go to the Father. Thank you for spending your time with me. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a wonderful day. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll be sure to join the conversation. I'll be back next year, next Friday, on January 1st, 2021, with a new story for y'all. Until then, sleep well.